1 minute more for that. I'm glad to see that many of you have a lot of ideas, which is appropriate because there are many advantages. Thirty seconds left. Okay, I'd like you now on your table, not in groups of two, but on the table, do a joint brainstorm. Now let me just explain that process before you start. In standard traditional brainstorming, the leader of the group will say, okay, everybody, we want to talk about color. Any ideas? Let me take some ideas. And as the ideas are mentioned, they're put up in a list on a flip chart. That seems like a good idea. It's communal. You are collecting the ideas from the group. It is a catastrophic idea. It's how group dynamics can produce less than the individual. Because what happens in the group dynamic like that is that the first person is usually the most extrovert or the leader or whatever, and that idea goes up. And all the other ideas are gravitationally sucked into that idea. And then the next one is listed, and the next one is listed, and it runs out very, very quickly. And the introverts tend never to contribute. Those who are not confident will not contribute. So you lose massively the real dynamic of a group. And the real dynamic of a group is that each one of you has an extraordinary brain which should contribute. And therefore you need at the beginning of a brainstorming session always to do it individually, so that each mind can explore its own universe and then exchange. And when you exchange, it's not an argument. If someone has an idea that you haven't got, you do what? Add it to your own note. If you're doing a mind map, you add another branch, or you extend the branch, whatever it is. So this is an exchange brainstorm where each one of you gives the others their ideas, and if the person next to you has the same idea as you, put a little tick mark by yours, because that means another person has agreed with that. And if the third person also has it, another tick mark. So you can get the commonality of ideas, which ideas had the most votes, which were the original ideas, etc. Okay, group, so this is intense discussion, and at the end of it, each one of you should have a compilation in your own notes of all the ideas of your table. Okay, starting now. Introduce yourselves if you haven't formally met each other yet. So what advantages do we have for color? How can we use it? This is now the big brainstorming group. So again, if anybody mentions an idea that your group has had, check it. If they've got an idea you haven't had, check that as well. Not check it, but add it. Okay, so what kind of, yes?
It helps you
differentiation, key idea. You could also call that discrimination, the ability to discriminate between, to make distinction. And that is always the sign of a good thinker, the ability to differentiate. So that adds clarification to your thinking, which is another advantage of color. Clarification, making things more clear. It's what I mentioned when I said it was as if, you know, my life had been going through driving with a windscreen covered in mud, and suddenly, chum, chum, it all became clear. And color was major in helping clarify my thinking. Okay, that's a good one. Good start. Well, yes. Very good. Color opens up your imagination. And opening up is a really important idea there. It opens, helps flower, if you like, the flowering of your imagination. And you may consider a mind map, if you look at the mind map up here, it's like a flower, isn't it? It's a flower of intelligence. So your own mind maps in future will be the flowers of your own intelligence. And I expect you to be extremely good gardeners. Good. What else? Yes. Color as an associative tool, association. Color allows you to connect things with each other in the mind map. It allows you to connect emotions, ideas, and you need to make a note here that color will be your own personal code. You may particularly like green and have it as an action color, but somebody else might think that brown is an action color. So your color coding should be personal, except when you're in a group, and then you have a group decision on what the colors will mean, as in general the world has done on red, amber, green for traffic. Stop, pause, go. So that was a communal decision to use color as an associative tool. So very important, association. Good, what else? Yes? Very important. Colors are lively, and therefore they bring life to your notes. Say that again. Yes. You've got about 4 ideas there. So it makes it more lively. It does contact the child within you. You're back in kindergarten again. And in kindergarten, you were colorful, you were enthusiastic, you were learning well, you loved learning. So it contacts the child in you. And, as you mentioned, it is more fun. Fun. And serious studies in psychology are reluctantly now agreeing that it's actually okay to have fun. And that in higher schools, in universities, in business, you actually do better when you're having fun, especially if you are making your learning and your work fun. And color does that. Let me just add one here, that in studies, and they're pretty easy to predict, but you imagine in a brain scanning laboratory, they're scanning people who are making notes in black, and people who are making notes and imagining in color. What's the difference in the brain scan? More excitement in the color brain. And more excitement, this is physics, biophysics. More brain cells turn on, like light bulbs. And you may think of most people's brains as like these wonderful palaces with thousands of rooms, with thousands of light bulbs and chandeliers. But there is only one little light bulb on in the basement. And that's the average brain, whereas it should be the whole palace lit. And when you use color, more of your brain cells physically get engaged in thinking. So you can imagine yourself as like the ruler of a country, and you have a giant civil service with millions and millions of workers in it. And they're all working for you. You're the boss. And you have a choice. You organize your millions of civil servants in such a way as that 95% of them stay at home and sleep every day, or they all come to work for you. And color makes your brain cells work. So note however you want to note that, but color is a physical brain stimulant and gets more of your brain cells engaged. So it's not just a nice idea, color. It is crucial. It's life-giving. You can make a note that linear note-taking does what to your brain? Switches it off. Switches it off. Mind maps? Switch it on. Turn it on. Now you don't have to do mind maps. You may have the rest of your life with a switched off brain, which is perfectly acceptable. Many people do it. A lot of people in businesses, as the businesses are now confirming, are switched off, which is why many of the businesses are going down, why there's a crisis. It's not a crisis, not an economic crisis. It's a thinking crisis. If there had been good thinking, we would not be in the crisis situation we're in now, going down in that swamp. And we will not be in that for the rest of our lives because we will think our way out of it. But we have to think well in order to succeed. Okay, good. Any other? Yes? Nature has given color. Nature's given color to our brains, in fact, as a natural function. And color is pleasing. Let us just check in this group. How many of you in here really, really like or even love colors? Keep your hands up. I mean, isn't that amazing? It's human. It's the way the brain is actually. So color gives pleasure. Pleasure is a key word. And if you are having pleasure from what you do, will you want to do it or not do it? You'll want to do it. There was an Indian journalist